Thank you for Patreon now for donating to the Patreon.
Hey guys, it's Van Diesel back on another Card Fight Vanguard deck profile. So if you enjoyed, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and let's start with you. This time we are covering Youthberk set 6. So Youthberk set 6, to be honest, went in a completely different direction than I thought my set 5 deck was going to go. I scrapped some of my favorite and best cards from that set 5 deck, and even before I scrapped them, somehow Youthberk was losing a lot. So now I question why I bothered building set 6 when set 5 was actually winning much more than set 6 was. So yeah, let's go ahead and go through the deck and maybe y'all can figure out why it's losing so much. So first up we have our starter in Youth, following in footsteps Youth. So for those of you that doubted that was his real name, yeah, that's his real name now. It's official. The English version makes that like so. So grade 0 boost, 5k shield, 6k base, auto when it's rolled upon. If you want second, draw a card. Not just much about it. Standard starter. I like you can really choose any starter you want because none of them require you to pick the specific starter. But you know, might as well pick him. He has the Youthberk name. He looks really cute. He's amazing. And if you're a paladin boy like me, obviously you want him. No offense to base, but let's be fair. You're always going to pick this one compared to base. Then we have our Overtrigger, Light Dragon Deity of Honors, Amartinoa. Grade 0 boost, 50k shield, 5k power. Overtrigger, you might have one Overtrigger in your deck. When a trigger, move that card, draw a card, choose one of your units, it gets +1 melee for the turn. And if you reveal it during your draft activation effect, which is additional effect, until end of turn, you also perform draft checks for your rear guards. So, you know, your rear guards do pretty good if you go on the multi-attack from the early game, because that means you can do a lot of draft checks with your rear guards, getting you the hand cards and putting you in the winning advantage, especially with how I see with this deck, where you kind of run into some defensive issues later. I mean, the way I see it with this deck is, for some reason, despite the fact there only being 10 grade 3s in this deck compared to my Bastion deck, which literally every unit minus the PGs and the triggers are grade 3s, somehow I run into a guarding problem with this deck where all the grade 3s flock to my hand, and too many of them flock to my hand before I can actually use them, to the point where I'm kind of short on guarding power, because all my other guarding power either went to bottom via searching skills, either went to damage zone via damage checks, or via got called to board via call skills. So yeah, it's kind of like 50-50. So the Overtrigger definitely helps get the drive checks. Obviously you want to run this one. If you want to run Obari, you can, but like this one just does the job better. Then we have 2 draws in Alchemy, grade 0 boost, 5k shield, 5k power. Standard draw, 2 crit and Blade Feather Dragon, grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 4k base. Critical trigger, auto rear at the end battle boosted, put it to soul, choose one of your plus 2 for the battle, and for the turn. Front trigger at 3, grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 4k power. Continues guard circle. If you have opponent's vanguards or grade, they're good. It's a 20k shield. 4 draws, again, grade 0 boost, 5k power, 4k base, continuous guard circle. If your opponent's vanguards are great, they're good, plus 5k shield. And 4 heals in Healer of Heavenly Staff, Arshes. Jesus Christ, that was so many triggers. Okay, so the reason why we're not running the effect heals is the same reason I don't run the normal heals, or sorry, the same reason I don't run Hill Guardians in V, and that is because like they're too situational. Yeah, upon further research of Overdress, which I don't believe, I actually had an epiphany on this a few days ago, where a lot of the decks actually have units that either restand or have ways just to get 4 attacks, which is something I never noticed, but apparently I just learned about that. Which is shocking to me for many reasons. The heal triggers are just not that good, because in the situation where you're not playing against those decks, those are 5k less shields than the regular heal, and there are a lot of games where if I had those heals, they would have screwed me over compared to help me over like this one. So I'd rather not take the chance and have a guaranteed 15 compared to like sometimes it's a 25 and sometimes it's a 5. I'd rather prefer the all around 15. And as for the crits, well, you don't need too many of them. I mean, you have Zest as your big beat stick, and you have Gust just in case, and you already do, like, it's easy to push the opponent up to 5 damage. The hard part is killing them, which is why the fronts are valued at more. As for the draws, regardless of what version of the deck I was playing between set 5 and set 6, for some reason I would always encounter a hand problem at the very end of the game. So I added more draws so I could try to not run into a hand problem, and it works. Except now I only draw grade 3, so you know, now it's just like I play Bastion, where I bluff my opponent. You think I have guards in this hand? Haha, joke's on you. All this hand is grade 3s. Try me. So yeah, all around, that's just the trigger lineup. Do as you wish with it, but I like the 6 draws, 3 fronts, 2 crits, and 4 heals. Then we have our normal order in Departure Towards Daybreak. God, I love how this thing looks. I like Youthberk right there with his Knights of the Revolution behind him. Viva la Revolution! And then we have like this giant bird-looking sword. I don't know, that just looks like a bird to me, so it looks amazing. Grade 1 normal order. Play it by counterblasting 1. Look at top 5. Choose to 1 RevolForm in its card name from among them. Reveal it, put it to your hand. Or choose up to a Great Turles unit card from among them. Call it to rearguard circle, shuffle your deck. So cool. For the simple cost of a counterblast, you either get a free RevolForm, for your battle phase that turn, or for maybe next turn setup, so you can make sure you're not struggling to get a Youthberk into hand. Or it can also be used to get a unit onto the board. Like, that's what the easiest thing about this deck. You are going to plow out so many units onto the board so quickly. My only issue with it is somehow I consistently see triggers, like mainly just triggers, only triggers in my entirety of the searchings, and I don't understand how and why, but it happens. So 2 copies of Daybreak, really good. Either get you a board, either get you a Youthberk, or in my case, it gets you 3 triggers. So 2 of Daybreak. And then we have 3 copies of Enucleate Angel. Yeah, I said I wasn't gonna ride her. I said I wasn't gonna run her in my Youthberk deck. Yeah, after you realize your deck kind of has a lot of counterblasters, and your soul, while yes being used for that really good grade 1 with the soul blast of 2, is really good. When you don't like Gust, you kind of tend to have to rely on another unit to make your deck consistent. So Enucleate Angel is a grade 1 boost, 5k power, 8k base, auto rear. When your Vanguard is placed by riding from a grade 3, soul blast 1, retire her, countercharge 1, and choose one of your Vanguards, gets +5 for the turn. So, pluses and minuses to this. 1, doesn't have to be during your battle phase when you use RevolForm. You can do it via Persona Ride, so that's a plus. You're always going to get that soul because you just rode, so even more power, and you get to countercharge out of it. So what I typically like to do is I like to call this behind my Vanguard, boost the Vanguard with this, then do my drive, whatever, then do my RevolForm, then use Enucleate to soul blast 1, kill herself, countercharge, and then give the Vanguard another +5. So while technically the Vanguard's second attack is weaker, most of the time it's already going to be powerful, and it might as well like give more power to my first Vanguard and then make consistent numbers. So all around, Enucleate is really good, helps with the countercharge, helps with the power, definitely one of the more consistent units of this deck, 3 of. Then we have 3 copies of Breakdown Witch Fectil. Okay, I've said it before, and I've agreed with people about this. Like, ride line discard fodder is not necessarily the best thing to run in a deck because it's way too situational. And I agree with you. I do. I genuinely do. This is the only deck I run ride line discard fodder in. The reason why I run it is simply because how often it shows up. I'm not even joking with you. This thing just always shows up when I need it to. So why would I ditch a card that always appears when I want it? So grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 6k base, auto was discarded from your hand during your ride phase, call it to rear guard. If it was discarded during anywhere, then I would be more inclined to run more copies of Gust than I do, but I don't. So, and it's not of that, so I don't run more. So all around, she's really good. In the early game, she definitely helps pump out your board without losing guard, and that's very helpful, especially if you happen to see 2 in your hand, because then that means you can make a column, go for the rush, and like I said, going for the rush is a pretty good idea to go for in the early game to make sure you can overwhelm your opponent with big numbers in the first grade 3 turn. So all around, Fectil's really nice, helps advance the game. If you don't see her by your grade 3, then at that point she's just PG fodder or a unit you can call. But when it's between her and a trigger to call from Youthberk skill, I would rather call her. So 3 of. Then we have 4 PGs in Aegismare Dragon. Yeah. Okay, so everyone remember in my old Youthberk deck how I didn't run PGs? And like I said at the beginning of this video, this deck loses a lot more. All I'm going to say is this. While I have won games because I have had PGs, I'm gonna say that the other deck was better because I didn't have PGs, because I like literally threw caution to the wind, because half the time when I do my searches for Youthberk, there's either a PG or a trigger among them, so or both. So that's not really a plus when I'm losing out on something that I called a board. So grade 1 boost, 0 shield, 6k base, continues Sentinel, 4 sounds in deck, and auto is put on guard circle. Choose one of your units and it cannot be attended to battle, and if your hand has 2 or more cards, choose a card from hand, discard it. So standard PG ability, nothing special about it. If it's placed on guard circle, and if it's the only other card in your hand outside of one other card, then you do not have to discard, so that's nice. You can be as aggressive as you want and defend with it, and that's pretty much all there is to this PG. Like I said before, the deck somehow loses a lot more even with all the more defensive options I've given it, and it still gets more power, and it still is somehow more consistent, and it gets more of a board, yet somehow it just loses so much more. I really do think Reddy made the difference, but like there was no room for her in this deck. So 4 of Aegismare. But in hindsight, if I ever cut a card for Reddy again, yeah, it's going to be the PG, and I will not hesitate to do so. So take that as you will. Then we have our grade 1 of the ride line. Determined to break away Youth. I've always wondered why he has an eye patch. In my opinion, kind of ruins it because he looks like a pirate to me, but I do like this halberd. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base. Continues to van or rear during the battle that it attacked. This unit gets plus 2k power. So basically, in the early game rush, if you manage to call him to rear guard some way somehow, he's a 10k swinger, but whether you're going first or second, as long as he's on your Vanguard, he's a 10k swinger, so that's nice. And then auto, when he's rode upon by Knight of Ardent Life, Youth, Soul Blast 1, look at top 3, choose to 1 card Youthberk from among them and reveal it, put it to your hand, or choose up to 1 Great Turles unit card from among them, call it to rear guard circle, and put the rest on bottom. So, plus side to determine to break away. first up, he says any card with Youthberk. So it can be Persona Ride, it can be a RevolForm, and it doesn't specify grade 3 or greater. Which means if they ever made a grade 2 or lower Youthberk named card, then that means you can add it to hand, so that's a plus. But then also, he can get you a unit to board. So, you know, you're either getting your Persona Ride / RevolForm that you need for the late game, or you're getting a unit you can rush with now. All-around Youth is really good. He's definitely one of my favorite ride line cards. It's simple Soul Blast in a deck that doesn't really use up that much soul now that I've gotten rid of, what's her name, Ready, and it also gets you a rear guard, possibly. Most of the time it gets me a rear guard, but on occasion it gets me a Persona Ride, so all around, good card, one of in the ride deck, none in the main deck, because you don't need it in the main deck. Then we have 2 copies of Witch of Moon Rabbit's Rubinia. Grade 2 NSF 5k shield, 10k base, auto is placed on rear, by counterblasting 1, you choose a hand card, put it to soul, and draw a card. Okay, so this is mainly here, just in case. Like, if your hand sucks, and you kind of know you're dead next turn, might as well exchange one of your triggers to try to get something better. Or maybe like you're doing it for setup for later purposes. Or maybe you plan on going like an all-out Soul Blast trip with Enucleate Angel. Or maybe you're doing the objectively smarter decision and not running a PG and running 4 copies of Ready. And then you have 3 of them in the back row, and then you use Rubina's skill to get a soul, just so you can do more Soul Blast. Either way, Rubina's really helpful in that regard, but she does take up a little bit of counterblast. So, you know, only running her I have 2 of. She is very helpful in the situations where she comes down, but you don't want to see her too often because she might end up getting rid of your counterblast and too many of your hand cards. Then we have 3 copies of Knight of Perforating Caduella. So grade 2 NSF 5k shield, 10k base, auto rear. At the end of the battle, this unit attack the Vanguard if you have 4 or more units, including itself. By soul blasting 1 and retiring it, look at top 3, choose up to 1 grade 2 or greater unit card from among them, reveal it, put it to your hand, and shuffle your deck. If you do not reveal, draw a card. Yeah, weirdly enough, Ready leaving immediately makes the deck so much more consistent on soul, but it makes it so much less fun. So this card is really good all around. It either gets you a grade 3 basically, because you're not going to add a normal grade 2 from this. If you see a grade 2, just shuffle them back. But if you see a grade 3 like Zest, Gust, or OG, just get it to your hand, and then you get the rest back to deck and shuffle. But if you don't add something, you get a draw. To be honest with you, half the time I just don't add anything. Unless it's a Persona Ride or a RevolForm that I need. Like, if I already have a RevolForm in hand, I'm not going to add a RevolForm. But if it's a Persona Ride, I'll add it to hand. But if it's neither, then I will just shuffle them all to deck just to get a draw, because I want that PG. Like, it at least gets me a PG. And weirdly enough, this works. Half the time I've done that, I've gotten a PG out of it. So, all around, really good. Helps you get cards that you may not be expecting, but also gives you a chance to get something good, or it gives you the chance to choice select from the top 3, which can sometimes be a really good choice select, and it shuffles so they're not all going to bottom. So even if you saw like a heal and over from on them, they're at least getting shuffled and not going straight to bottom, unlike someone over here. So all around, Caduella is really nice. I like it. There's soul and room for it in the deck, and it retires itself so your opponent can't take advantage of your rear guard. So 3 of. Then we have 4 copies of Knight of Fracture, Schneizal. So this German boy is a grade 2 with NSF 5k shield, 10k base. Must say I love the hair in the background and the sword. Not so much a fan of himself, but I like everything else. I literally like everything else about him except the face. The face is the only thing I don't like. Everything else is amazing. So auto is placed on rear. By counterblasting 1, look at the top 5. Choose up to 1 card with grade... Choose up to 1 grade 3 card with Youthberk and its card name from among them. Reveal it, put it to your hand, and shuffle your deck, and it gets +5 for the turn. So 15k during the turn it's placed, and you get a possible Persona Ride / RevolForm. All around, that's good. You don't have to add if you don't want to, or if you don't have one among them, he'll still get the +5. So all around, really good there. And then he is an auto rear when he attacks. If your Vanguard is placed by riding from a grade 3 this turn, whether it's via Persona Ride or RevolForm, choose one of your Vanguards and it gets +5 for the turn. Okay, that's good. My issue with this is, why does it only give it to the Vanguard? Because basically, what I'm saying is, unless you have another rear guard out on the front row, which is more likely than not going to happen. Like, I've never had a situation where I haven't had both my front row rear guards filled with this deck, but the fact that, like, he doesn't get the 5k himself kind of ruins it, because then that means you have to swing with him before you swing with the Vanguard, meaning that's 1 less unit to get trigger powers with. So if you see a front trigger, that's 1 less unit to be dangerous with if you want the Vanguard to be hitting for more numbers. So, like, I'm kind of 50-50 on Schneizal. Like, that first ability is really strong, really good. The counterblast, like, I must admit I don't like, because it kind of puts me in a counterblast situation, but it at least gives me a possible Youthberk and a +5. But that second skill, as free as it is and as good as it is, it's like, if I didn't have to attack with it first, that'd be preferable. So take that as you will. 4 up. It's like Prometheus of the Dancing Lights from Genesis, except worse in my opinion, because at least Prometheus gave itself 5k. So if you want to attack with it second, you can attack with it second. So yeah, 4 of Schneizal if you choose to run him. But he's actually a really good grade 2 though for that search alone. Then move on to our last grade 2, which is 1 copy in the right deck, no copies in the main deck of Knight of Ardent Life Youth. So grade 2 intercept 5k shield, 10k base. Auto when he's rolled upon by unit with Revolve Dress ability, so it can be Youthberk Skyfall Arms, Youthberk Protofall Arms. By counterblasting 1, choose a grade 2 or greater card from your drop, put it to your hand. So it's just that simple. You can discard a RevolForm because it's a grade 2 or greater, and you can counterblast to get it back. So basically you had no discard. Like I remember I did that one game where my discards were in this exact order. This, a Zest, and then this again. And because I rode from this thing, I could counterblast 1 and get the Zest back. So essentially during that whole game, I had discarded nothing for ride deck. So that was amazing. And then Auto Vandereer when he attacks while boosted. Soul Blast 1, and it gets plus 5k for the battle. So pretty good. He gets numbers. The Soul Blast like 50-50. Like if you need to use him to get a big number on the opponent's Vanguard for whatever reason, go ahead. Me personally, I never had to use that, but if the situation ever comes up for you where he's on Van and you gotta boost him just to get that bigger number, go for it. He's all around a nice grade 2. I like for that reason alone. No copies in the main deck, but he does basically make your ride deck refundable. So 1 of in the ride deck. Then we move on to our grade 3s. 2 copies of the one that I think some people would debate on, but my argument too is this. 1, even though they're at 2 of, I literally see this card every game. None of them have ever ended up in the damage zone except for 1 game, and only 1 of them did. The other one went to hand immediately. So, which is Youthberk, RevolForm, Gust. 2 copies of it, grade 3, 200% right, 13k base. Here's the thing, I love its art, I hate its skill. Auto when it's placed on Van by your Revolve Dress ability. If your opponent's Vanguards are grade 3 or greater, discard 1, it gets plus 10k to drive for the turn. Okay, and then this has the ability Auto Van at the end of the turn. Choose a card with Revolve Dress ability from your soul, ride it as rest. So, it does the switching of the Vanguard, so you do Skyfall or Protofall into this thing, then you use that skill. At the end of the turn, swap it back under so you can use it next turn. Here's my thing with Gust. That first skill sucks. Now, everyone can argue with me as much as you want. Here's my argument against it. Whenever I played Youthberk before in set 5, the reason I would win was not because if I would Persona Ride and get a crit from Zest. It would be because Zest simply was a 28k swing on its own. And that got more numbers via Persona Ride, so 38. So while yes, the Persona Ride was helpful, Zest was still the main thing that killed them via power and not critical. Now Gust, here's what Gust asking you to do. 1, discard a hand card. And in the rare occasion where maybe you're at 0 hand cards, you draft like a Gust and something else, yeah, cool, you can still use them. Here's the thing though, he gets less power, and like I said, power was the reason I killed people. And a drive, okay, drive is good, but if you don't see a trigger, what then? Because at that point, you've probably already invested all your defenses into it. Here's the thing, I will not say Gust is bad. Gust is good when you're going second. If you're going second, first grade 3 turn, Gust is better than Zest, because Zest will only be a 28, this will be a 23 with a drive. You're probably not planning on killing your opponent there. But after that, I gotta imagine you're planning on killing your opponent immediately afterwards like that, and you obviously don't want to just be stuck on something that's like a 50-50 toss-up in the air if you'll actually see a trigger or not. So, and that's coming from the guy that ran Ready as his main grade 1 for the entirety of set 5 Youthberg. So if I'm saying it's bad of all things, I think, even though I'm not that good of a player, I hold some gravity on this situation. So, take that as you will. I just don't like Gust. But you don't need to up it to any more, because in this deck, I literally see him consistently. Even if you do like him and you disagree with me, still run him at a 2 of. Because if your luck is anything like mine, with the searching you do in this deck, you'll see both copies in your hand by the end of your first grade 3 turn. So you don't even need to put him at 3 of. Then we have Youthberk, RevolForm, Zest, my inherently more favorite version of Youthberk and the better one, in my opinion. Grade 3 200 Persona, 13k base, auto is placed on Vanguard by Revolve Dress ability until end of turn, he gets plus 15k, and if you Persona roll this turn, he gets a crit. Cool, so he's a 28k swing, and if you did Persona Ride, he's a 38 double critical. So that's all around really good, nice for the pressure, big ass numbers, definitely forces out a PG, but the Vanguard already forced out a PG because Twin Drive, so they're probably already dead. And then Auto Van at the end of your turn, choose a card Revolve Dress from ability from your soul, route as rest, standard ability, no special about it. All around a good card. I do prefer more than I prefer Gust because this one doesn't waste a hand card like Gust does. So again, if you're going on the all-out attack and you don't kill your opponent, you kind of had a difference in numbers that may have been the difference. Maybe it wasn't, maybe it was, who knows. But yeah, typically that 5k has always made the difference in a good chunk of my matches. So I'm not gonna drop Gust for a 50-50 bet on instead of Zest, who has been the reason I've won a bunch of games. So yeah, 4 of Zest, really good grade 3. I like him a lot. Then we move on to our final grade 3, and our final unit of the deck. 3 copies in the main deck, 1 copy in the right deck of Youthberk, Skyfall Arms. So grade 3, 200 persona, 13k base. I must say, I like his background. I think he's really cool. For some reason, I think these are part of his wings, which I know they're not, but that looks really cool regardless. And I just like his art. So his ability, Revolve Dress, Auto Van. At the end of the battle that he attacked, choose up to 1 card with RevolForm and its card name from your hand. Right at a stand and lose 2 drives for the turn. Cool. So basically, this becomes a 0 drive, but that doesn't matter. And this becomes technically a 1 drive, but again, that doesn't matter. If they ever make a Revolve Dress ability that says you don't lose drives, then I will be more inclined to like Gust, but yeah, not inclined to like Gust. So, okay, good, it's for free. And then Act Vanguard, once per turn, discard a card from your hand, look at top 3, choose up to 1 card RevolForm and its card name from among them, reveal it, put it to your hand, or choose up to 1 grade 2 or less unit card from among them, call it to rear guard, and put the rest to bottom in any order. Okay, that is both good and bad. One, I hate how they copied that ability straight from the Ride Line Grade 1, except just made it a discard instead of a Soul Blast and made it actually worse. Because how they made it worse is this. 1, it's top 3, which is the same as before, except this time instead of getting any Youthberk, it is specifically RevolForms. So you can't get a Persona Ride, which means if for some reason there are 3 of these in the top, which shouldn't be possible, or like, well, it is possible, but it shouldn't be likely, which almost happened to me once there's 2 of them at the top at some point or another, then you don't get to freaking do anything with it because either it's a RevolForm and it goes to hand, or it's a grade 2 or less and it gets called. So if there are 3 RevolForms, or sorry, if there are 3 Skyfalls among them, then all of them go to bottom, which sucks for you. You just lost all your Persona Rides. Good luck, buddy. But then otherwise, the thing about the grade 2 or less thing is how often I play this deck, I see so many triggers. Like, I've used this skill probably 16 times already to memory, like, which isn't a lot, but like, if you knew my luck with it, then you know why I'm not doing that. And the reasoning for it is because 8 of those 16 times I have seen 3 triggers from that skill. Like, specifically in this order: a crit, a front, and a heal, or a crit, a front, and a draw. It's always in that order, and I don't know why. It's like he never goes off that way. And then the other 8 times, there's typically 2 triggers or a trigger and a PG, and then there's a unit I actually want. So, like, you know, his skill's a 50-50 toss-up. You would think I would have better luck with this, but I don't. It's like what I call is the Fort Curse, where if you ever look back at Overdress when it first came out and people played Bastion, how whenever someone used Fort, they would always see a heal. Yeah, I call it that curse, where it's something that happens to everyone, because I know I haven't been the only one that happens. I've seen it happen to other people too. So I call it a curse, where at some point it will wear off. When, I don't know. So 3 of Skyfall in the main deck, 1 of in the ride deck as our main grade 3, and that's pretty much it for the deck. And with that, I end it here. So I just want to say the reason why I don't run Protofall is because, in my opinion, he's too slow. I do it for all those new decks because the reason for it is the only reason you want to run them is because they have the alternate Persona Ride thing, which is fine. But in my opinion, those are too slow. Especially for like Leonorn, who actually has a different skill with their main grade 3. This one is like, if your top 3 is good to you, then obviously that one's too slow. Like either way, run Skyfall or Protofall, because like Skyfall gets you a possible rear guard and a surge compared to Protofall, who is just the alternate Persona Ride and Revolve Dress, and that's it. So don't pick him, pick Skyfall. Dradjul is like a 50-50. I'll give you points if you actually run Dradjul in your ride deck, because I could see that. And then Leonor I can kind of see, but not really. So, but this deck, no, you don't want Skyfall. You don't, I mean, not Skyfall. You don't want Protofall. It's way too slow. I mean, it's fine, but waiting for that Persona Ride is kind of not worth it in my opinion. So without further ado, I'm going to end it here. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, join the Discord, follow Twitch, and I'll see you all in the next one. Don't forget to stand up your vanguards.